The front door slammed against the wall, so hard the frames in my hallway shook. Family photos rattled in protest as a woman in her 50s stormed straight into my kitchen like a hurricane wrapped in polyester. Her face was contorted with righteous fury, and she swung a clipboard through the air like it was a weapon. A shiny HOA president pin glinted on her blazer, catching the afternoon sun filtering through my windows. "This is the third violation this month," she shrieked, her voice slicing through the air like a siren. "Your grass is 0.5 and too tall. Your garbage cans were visible for 37 minutes past pickup time. And don't even get me started on that eyesore you call a mailbox." I stood frozen at the living room threshold, coffee mug halfway to my lips, watching this stranger strut around my home as if she had the deed in her purse. She brushed her fingers across my countertop, swiping for dust. Then God help me actually open my refrigerator, wrinkling her nose in disgust like a judge about to issue a sentence. "Excuse me," I said, steadying my voice despite the shock pulsing through me. "You need to leave now." She spun around with the dramatic flair of someone who'd rehearsed this moment in the mirror, her bleached hair whipped over her shoulder like a curtain. "I am Karen Thompson, president of the Willowbrook HOA," she declared, "and I have every right to inspect properties for compliance." As she reached for my phone on the counter, likely planning to snap photos of imaginary violations, I moved forward instinctively. Years of police training took over, and my tone shifted into calm, measured authority, the kind that once de-escalated hostage situations. "Ma'am," I said evenly, "you've just committed a felony 3 weeks earlier." I'd moved into this peaceful suburban neighborhood, hoping for some quiet after 2 decades on the force. "My name's Detective James Morrison. 20 years of service, commendations for excellence, and a simple dream of barbecues, gardening, and weekends without sirens." Karen Thompson clearly had other plans. From the moment I arrived, she zeroed in on me like a heat-seeking missile. The mailbox too and too low. The driveway, contaminated by a microscopic oil stain that, according to subsection 12.4 of the HOA guidelines, was a property violation. She even said my American flag wasn't the correct shade of blue. I tried being polite, nodding as she rattled off ridiculous infractions that would make a traffic cop roll their eyes. Neighbors had warned me, their voices carrying the weary tone of veterans who'd survived Karen's reign. "That's just Karen," they'd say with a resigned shrug. "She's been president for 5 years. Thinks she runs a military base." I'd dealt with difficult people before. I figured I could handle one overzealous HOA president. But everything changed after the barbecue. That Saturday, I'd hosted a small, friendly cookout. A few neighbors, burgers, classic rock, and good conversation. We wrapped up by 8 p.m. well within noise regulations. Karen showed up at 6:30, tape measure in hand like a building inspector from hell. For 0.7 feet, she'd announced triumphantly, measuring the distance between my grill and the property line. HOA regulations clearly require 5 feet after that. It turned into psychological warfare. Anonymous notes typed in aggressive all caps started appearing on my door daily. "Your hedges are asymmetrical. Your doormat is not regulation brown. Your car was parked facing the wrong direction for 14 minutes. She began snapping photos over my fence, flash going off at all hours. One night, I even caught her on a step ladder, peering into my garage like a nosy raccoon in pearls. When confronted, she insisted she was documenting architectural inconsistencies. And then came the gossip campaign. Somehow neighbors I'd never spoken to already knew about my supposed violations. Karen had created a neighborhood Facebook group dedicated to dissecting my property like a crime scene. She'd even photoshopped images to make my lawn look dead. That fateful afternoon, I was in my backyard replacing a few warped fence boards. It was quiet, methodical work, the kind that cleared the static in my head. I had noise-canceling headphones on. Classic rock humming in my ears. I didn't hear the front door, but she did. Karen had been watching, waiting. She saw me head to the backyard, noticed the door was unlocked as I carried lumber in and out. To her, this wasn't my home. It was an opportunity. She slipped in like a thief, quiet in her sensible flats, with the self-righteous swagger of someone who thought the rules didn't apply to them. 45 minutes later, sweaty but satisfied with the fence repair, I came inside for a drink of water and froze. Karen stood at my dining table, bent over like a burglar cataloging loot. My mail, personal letters, bills, even a birthday card for my mother was spread out in neat little piles. She was photographing everything with her phone. Kitchen drawers were hanging open. My notebook was flipped through. My calendar was exposed. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" I asked, my voice dropping into the same cold register I'd used in interrogation rooms. She straightened, puffing out her chest and clutching the clipboard like a shield. "I'm conducting a lawful HOA inspection. You've been reported for multiple violations, and I have the authority to investigate." "No," I said, pulling out my phone and hitting record. "You have zero authority to enter my home. That's called breaking and entering, Karen. It's also trespassing, invasion of privacy, and depending on what you just photographed, potential for identity theft." She let out a sharp, barking laugh. "Don't be ridiculous. The HOA charter gives me full inspection rights," Karen snapped, clutching her clipboard like a shield. "It's all perfectly legal." I couldn't help but laugh softly at that, just enough to make her flinch. "Really?" I asked, folding my arms. "Show me where in the HOA charter it says you can enter someone's private residence without consent." "Go ahead. I'll wait." Her face flushed pink, then red as she fumbled through her papers, shuffling pages like a magician looking for a disappearing card. "It's implied," she stammered. "How else am I supposed to ensure compliance from the outside of people's homes?" I replied coolly like a normal person. I reached into my wallet. "Let me show you something, Karen." The moment I flipped open my badge, her entire expression cracked. The color drained from her face so fast it was like watching a curtain drop. Her mouth parted, but no sound came out. "Detective James Morrison," the badge read in bold letters beneath the City Police Department seal. "You're a cop," she whispered, her voice suddenly small. 20 years on the force," I confirmed, then pointed to the corner of the living room. "And that camera over there? It's been recording since the second you stormed in. So has the one in my kitchen. And the one by the front door caught you walking in without permission." Her clipboard slipped from her hands, smacking against the floor. Panic began to set in. "This is a misunderstanding," she stammered. I knocked. "I thought I heard you say come in from the backyard." I raised an eyebrow. Through my noise-canceling headphones. "Impressive hearing, Karen." I pulled out my work phone and started dialing. Her eyes widened as the reality of the situation settled like a storm cloud. "I'm calling this in," I said evenly. "You can explain your story to the responding officers." "Wait," she blurted, stepping forward, then froze when I lifted a warning hand. "We can work this out. I'll leave right now. We can pretend this never happened." "That's not how crime works," I replied calmly. "You don't get to commit a felony and take it back when you're caught." I brought the phone to my ear. "Dispatch, this is Detective Morrison, badge number 4729. I need units at my residence for a burglary in progress. Suspect is still unseen." Her knees buckled and she collapsed into my dining chair, the same one she'd been leaning over while violating my privacy minutes earlier. Tears welled up, streaking down the face that only moments ago had been twisted with arrogance. "Please," she choked out. "I have a reputation. I run a real estate agency. This will ruin me. You should have thought about that before you broke into a police officer's home, I said, my voice steady. Or anyone's home, for that matter. My badge doesn't make this worse, Karen. It just means I know exactly what charges you're facing. Outside, the distant wail of sirens grew louder. Karen heard it, too. Desperation flickered across her face like a dying match. I'll resign from the HOA, she begged. I'll approve all your violations. I'll even pay for your new fence. You're really not getting this, I replied as two uniformed officers stepped through my still open front door. This isn't about HOA politics anymore. This is about criminal behavior. I gave the responding officers a quick, clear rundown, showing them the security footage on my phone. Their neutral expressions tightened into something between shock and anger as they watched Karen rummaging through my personal mail and drawers. Officer Martinez turned to her, professional but firm. Ma'am, he said, I need you to stand up and put your hands behind your back. You can't arrest me, she shrieked, stumbling to her feet. I'm the HOA president. I know the mayor. My husband's a lawyer. Ma'am, Officer Martinez said evenly, producing a pair of handcuffs. None of that matters right now. You're under arrest for criminal trespass and unlawful entry. The metallic click of the cuffs echoed through my dining room like a gavel. Karen's face twisted between fury and humiliation as Officer Martinez began reading her rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. This is ridiculous, she spat, struggling against the cuffs. It's his word against mine. Actually, I interjected, holding up my phone. It's your actions against Hyde video evidence. As they led her toward the door, Karen threw one last venomous glare over her shoulder. You'll regret this. I'll sue you for false arrest. I'll make your life hell. The entire HOA will come after you. Looking forward to it, I said with a casual wave. The neighborhood had poured out onto their porches, lawns, and driveways. People who had endured her tyranny for years now watched with wide eyes and quiet satisfaction. Mrs. Chin from 2 doors down started a slow clap. Bob across the street raised his beer in a mock toast. As the police cruiser rolled away, Karen's muffled shout still audible through the window. My next-door neighbor muttered with a grin. About damn time someone stood up to her. The district attorney's office wasted no time. My security footage along with witness statements from neighbors who'd seen Karen enter my home painted an airtight case. She was charged with criminal trespass, unlawful entry, and attempted identity theft for photographing my personal documents. Maximum penalty up to 3 years behind bars and $25,000 in fines. Her lawyer husband scrambled to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor wasn't interested in cutting corners for a woman who'd terrorized an entire neighborhood. 2 months later, Karen Thompson, the infamous president of the Willowbrook HOA, stood before a judge. Her once commanding voice was nowhere to be found as he delivered her sentence. 1 year of probation, $5,000 in fines, and 200 hours of community service. But the legal consequences were nothing compared to the fallout. The HOA board convened an emergency meeting the very next day. Unanimous vote. She was removed as president. She sat in the back of the room, cheeks strewn with tears as neighbor after neighbor recounted years of harassment, measuring tapes, and intimidation. Her real estate agency dropped her within a week, citing damage to the company's reputation. And then came the headline splashed across the front page of the local paper. HOA president arrested for breaking into officer's home. Her booking photo said it all. When the judge finally read her sentence aloud, her shoulders shook with silent sobs. The woman who once ruled a neighborhood with a clipboard and a tape measure now sat powerless, facing the ultimate consequence, the complete and permanent loss of the control she'd wielded so recklessly.